Hi, my name is Seraphine Phoenix, and today we're going to talk about some of the things that I've experienced in my life. And trigger warning, there will be talk about addiction, mental and physical abuse, suicide. Um, ooh, um, I think that touches
Mm.
everything. Kind of
That
is
is
broad.
definitely a lot to talk about today. Thanks for listening, everyone. This is my first attempt at doing a podcast. I am just as inexperienced as you could imagine, but the most important thing is to have fun, I suppose. So my idea was to interview people who have unusual and interesting life stories. And I mean, from what you've just told me, you definitely suit the criteria for that. And well, I was just really curious about your experience. I know it's probably a lot. I think the best thing that we could do is, just start at the beginning, I guess, from when you were young, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So I guess it all started like the day I was born, literally, because when I was born, my mom was going like she was about to be sent to prison.
Mhm.
So and so was my dad, like he was already in prison at the time. So when I was 3 days old, my grandparents and my like my great aunt and uncle adopted me. So like abandonment issues are through the roof.
So,
But
your parental figures in this case were the people who adopted you, or
yes, yes.
Mhm.
My father was never really like active in my life at all, and I'm actually really glad for that. He's not a good influence at all.
Mhm.
And mhm.
So how come that I guess he was being held in jail at the time?
Yeah, he had an extensive like criminal history as it was and still is growing that list. But he, I want to say it was like uh maybe a drug charge or something. And
Mhm.
same with my mom. Like that's what they were going in for.
Mm.
And so like they neither neither one of them really had a choice, but still it was their choice to do what they did to not be able to be in my life. That's how I feel about it, at least.
I mean, I suppose that is a complicated situation, right? I mean, I do think that like everybody is accountable for their actions, so it's a reason, it's not a justification. But I do wonder, like, when you're at the point where I guess you are pregnant and your husband is going to jail. I mean, everything that has led up to that point has already kind of like, I think, consolidated. I don't know. So, do you mind? Do you mind sharing like how your parents' circumstances were at that moment? Because I'm kind of curious about that. If that makes sense.
Um, like my mom said that they had like paid to have like the treatments or I'm not really sure how it works, but the fertility like
Mhm.
things. She was going to doctor visits and stuff like that, so that she could get pregnant with me because they were having trouble before. So she says that I was wanted, and stuff like that. I was planned, but then I I just don't understand how you can say that and then also be selling, drugs or whatever while you're literally weeks away from giving birth.
Hmm. Well,
And
the
mhm.
I think the what would be an important detail here, I guess, is were they selling or were they also using substances?
mm, I obviously was not there.
Well, well, yeah,
And I know what. I know what they have told me. My father was using and selling and doing, I don't even know what else, but I probably don't want to know. But my mother, as far as I know, was only selling
Mhm. But
and like
the reason,
around.
I guess the reason I'm curious about the distinction, because I think that if you're at a point where you're also a user,
Hmm.
then it's more difficult to, I guess, break out of that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You're
because
dependent
you
on
have like that.
substance.
Yeah, you have that relationship with it,
Hmm.
and it just kind of becomes like habitual.
Well, yes,
But
unfortunately.
yeah, but the people that adopted me was my by blood my great uncle,
Hmm.
like technically, but I called him dad, obviously, and I grew up with him and his wife and their children.
Hmm.
And when I was born, one of their sons was shot and killed. So like like I was a little older,
Hmm.
like, but I don't really remember him.
But
But like that was, I think that really marked the beginning of a lot of things that would happen later, because it
mhm.
was really like a shift in the family, like
how
that, and
how
then
so?
having a baby come in,
Hmm.
totally unexpected, just kind of threw everything like sideways, which is
Hmm.
understandable. But so then when I was growing up, it was me and then my two other brothers and my sister.
Hmm.
And I would see my grandma, which was my mom's mom, like every other day. She couldn't adopt me because she had like seizures. So they said she wasn't fit, to take care of a baby. So,
Epilepsy. Yeah.
um, kind of, yeah.
Hmm.
And so, like, I'd go over there sometimes, and I was back and forth between like one household and the other, pretty much. And even growing up, I didn't really speak to my dad at all, and I hardly remember seeing him. And then my mom, she tried to keep in touch. She'd write me letters. I wouldn't read them. After a while, like, because they didn't keep it from me that she was my mom or anything. Like, they told me, like, pretty much what was going on. And I think that put me at a disadvantage because it made me become mature so much faster. I feel like, because that made me start thinking, oh, I don't have a mom and dad like these other kids.
Did you also have more responsibility, you think, as a child, or?
Yeah, because to take care of like, we live in a poverty area. So to take care of the four children that they had then,
Mhm.
it they were both working like all the time. And my grandparents, like, well, my grandma was on disability. So, and that's not a whole lot of money either. So money was pretty tight. Like, but they made sure we had what we needed, and they didn't do what my mother tried to justify and say, oh, well, I was doing what I had to get, the things that you needed, which is how she justifies, how when she got arrested.
So what basically in her justification is she was trying to make money to raise you.
Yes.
Hmm.
But instead of, say, working, like the family that I went to live with, that's the route that she chose.
Hmm.
And the route that she chose led to, the consequences.
Well,
So,
the thing is, obviously I don't know these people, so for me it's hard to judge. But like I am curious about the circumstances that have led up to that point. Because
yeah, like, it it's just that after, because on with my, like, I don't consider really my mom's other children or my dad's other children because he has so many. He has like a dozen children, I swear, like
Mhm.
not even exaggerating. But my mom had two other children besides me, and that's like my half sister, my half brother. But like I'm the oldest
Mhm.
in that group. And so she had two other children after me, but she still had other charges as well, like after she served that one sentence. So she got out and she had um, my brother. You know, she ended up going back in. She got back out. She had my sister. She was out. She stayed out for a little bit, but then she ended up going back in and she did 10 consecutive years
Oof.
because it was her third strike.
Also,
So,
was it also like drug charges, I suppose?
yeah.
Hmm.
Like there were three related charges. Like, so she made the same mistake basically three times with all three children.
Hmm.
So I feel like, she's out now and she's just, the jail system does something to a person. Like you get institutionalized
Hmm.
and it just changes the way a person thinks. And like when she first got out and stuff, things like cell phones, even like iPhones, that was like just crazy. She didn't really
Really?
get it. Yeah. She was really confused. She still gets confused.
That's actually really interesting to think about, because the funny thing about the prison system is you imagine that the point of punishing someone, well, it's not supposed to be a punishment. It's supposed to, you know, uh,
Be a rehabilitation sort of
exactly. It's
thing.
it's supposed to, prepare someone to reintegrate into society.
Hmm.
And then you hear like somebody for 10 years has been deprived of all the technological and socio-economic developments in society and gets thrown back to the street while clueless. Like that sounds so
Yeah.
counterproductive, doesn't it? Like what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah.
I should note that I am in Northern Europe in the Netherlands, so for here here it's wildly different because you
Yeah.
in the
The
United
American
States.
prison system and just justice system in period, justice, eh?
Mhm.
justice system, period, is really just not where it needs to be at all.
Well, I do know you have one of the highest incarceration rates in the whole world. So that's what
Yeah.
I know. So it does
Yeah.
definitely doesn't seem like it's like tackling any systematic issues. So that's why I was kind of curious, because in this story, it kind of starts at the beginning point of your parents, but I wonder if there are parallels between their and your upbringing in a way, because usually it is also a little bit like a cycle. It sounds like I'm making assumptions here, right? I could be wrong, but like
Mhm.
very generalized. This is what you often see, right? It can be like a multi-generational thing.
Yeah, like a lot of, I won't say a lot, but quite a few of my relatives, like my family has a history of things like addiction and stuff. And so in turn, a lot of them have ended up in jail at one point in time. But the immediate family I was with, who were like I said, they were like my great uncle, my great, and my grandma, stuff like that. They're the older generation.
Mhm.
So fewer of them were going in and out of jail, basically.
But some of them were.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But the family that I was staying with, they were they wanted me to excel, they wanted me to do well. And I did for a good bit. Like I was through school, I went into the AP classes in high school. I went into college classes when I was in high school. So I had college credits and stuff while I was still a high school student. So if I would have gone to college, which I did not, spoiler alert,
Mhm.
then I would have been like 2 years ahead and I would have finished 2 years earlier than I would have had I not done
Mhm.
it. And that was all well and good, but like like I said, the family I was living with, the my parents, they worked constantly trying to pay for the house and, make sure that we had the things that we wanted and the things that we needed. And so my siblings from that family would raise me basically, they'd babysit me, stuff like that. So I was really, really super duper close with them, like super close. And this is where the mention of suicide starts, basically. When I was 15 in October, I was getting up for school one day and like I heard like yelling outside and I thought maybe it's the cats, maybe like something jumped on the dog. So I walked outside and my brother had like committed suicide. He hung himself in our front yard. So like from that point, that was another shift, like where you could really tell there was like a change in like the whole family. Just it was like a ripple effect.
I totally imagine. That is really heavy. And
Yeah.
how old was your brother at the time?
Uh, my memory is really bad. um, I want to say 20, 29, maybe 28.
Mhm.
Right, it's like 20s, late 20s.
And you were
I was 15.
very young still.
Yeah. And it was at a very weird time in my life because I was like um at at that weird puberty-ish stage or whatever, trying to figure stuff out, kind of wanting to be independent a little, you know. And the friends that I had at the time uh weren't the best at all, weren't a good support system. Like they knew my brother, but they didn't come to the funeral or anything. They weren't really there for me. And we got in a falling out shortly before that happened.
Mhm.
So they didn't really support me like when I really super duper needed it. And like I have seen times like where they had messaged other people saying, "Oh, well, she doesn't deserve love," but then they turn around and address the fact that I was acting out the way that I was and like being a real bitch to people because I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know like
Mhm.
how to deal with what I was feeling. I didn't have anyone to talk to,
Yeah,
so I
well,
would just lash out.
to be fair, you were 15, so I think that's a lot of expectation for 15-year-old to conduct yourself properly, in that in times like that, and I don't know, make a judgment based of that whether or not they deserve support. I
Yeah,
think that can be expected of a child, really, because that's what you are at that age.
yeah, but like after that, um, I my dad kind of like he became withdrawn more than he was before, and he had gotten a divorce
Mhm.
from his wife, and she ended up getting married like not too long after that. And I don't talk to her like at all now. And it used to be like whenever it was my birthday, I'd come home from school or something and I'd have like a bed full of gifts. Like even though we didn't have the money, like I'd still, you know, I'd be shown that I was loved and stuff like that. I'd be taken care of. And
Mhm.
then it went from that to like just nothing, like no contact. And it felt like I was being sort of like abandoned all over again, like with my birth mother. Cause that's how I feel like she abandoned me,
I mean,
Cause like you made the choice
yeah,
to not make contact.
I mean, it is abandonment. Mhm.
That's just how I saw it. And a lot of people like will disagree and like they try to get me to talk to my mom. And to be honest, I did try. I did try. Like my birth mother, I did try once she got out. But she's been institutionalized, and I can't speak for what she was like before the prison system, but I know that now she's like this manipulative person that I just cannot stand to be around. She lies and like she mooches off of people, and she's just like a lazy human being, and I just can't do it.
So, but do you think that like I don't know, I'm not saying that like everybody who behaves that way um is is like shaped that way, but I feel like the majority of people who act like that probably also had to deal with their own trauma maybe in their life. And
Yeah,
I'm not saying that this is an excuse, right? And I know some people are born a certain way where they, I guess, cannot provide for people or be responsible. But I think in a lot of cases this is also the result of things that they went through.
yeah.
Not always, but in the majority of cases, you know. So that's why I'm so curious about what.
My family suffers from like a lot of um mental like things. Like my mom has bipolar disorder, and so do I. And like it's she, but the difference between me and her is she uses like things like her bipolar to make the actions that she, does like justifiable, or she'll be like, oh, it's because I'm bipolar, you forgive me. But you have to take accountability at some point.
That's true.
And she does not want to take accountability ever. She's no, that's just not like an avenue she's willing to take.
I mean,
And
it's hard if you have lived a life like that to, you know, the moment you start taking accountability for the things that you've done, it also means you have to swallow the very bitter pill, I guess, that
yeah.
you, that you know you probably regret most of the actions that you've done
Hmm.
in your life. And I feel like psychologically that's not something that most people are capable of, you know, of
Yeah.
saying to themselves, I am unhappy with my life because of what I've done. That's actually a very difficult thing to admit to yourself, right?
Yeah. you
So
you always want someone else to blame.
well, yeah, people will just, well, I think they will usually just double down on their denial, yeah, of they'll find a way to cope or even not think about it. Like
Yeah.
how many people do you meet that have made a lot of mistakes in life, but are also just open about the fact that they were mistakes? You know, that it exists, but
Yeah.
it is really rare because
And I feel
psychological.
like that's
Yeah, it's really hard to deal with. You in general, I think just the idea that like I fucked up in my life. You know, how do
yeah,
you
and I
cope
feel
with?
like that's part of the reason why like I felt so inclined to like reach out to you when you said that you were doing this, because like it's okay to say I fucked up. It is.
Exactly.
Like you don't have to make excuses for it. Just say I fucked up. And like don't say it's because of this, like you just fucked up, period.
I
And
agree.
be genuine about it. You got to be a genuine person in life,
Yeah,
or you're just going to be stuck with like these shitty, ingenuine people.
I mean it applies if you look at the big picture too, right? I mean, as a society, we fucked up too, right? But I
Yeah.
feel like we will never get to a point of improving issues like these, which are very much systematic, I guess, without, you know, looking in the mirror and telling ourselves that we fucked up too. Because stories like this are common. I've talked to so many people who, you know, experience things like these, but it feels like we're trying to wipe it under the carpet like it doesn't exist. And I think that's contributing to the fucked upness of everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of does,
Yeah.
right?
It just becomes like a cycle,
Yeah. So how come
and no one
how
wants to
come
break
you are
it.
so open about all of this? I wonder. 'Cause I'm not sure.
Um,
I'm not sure if I would be capable of that if I went through all these things. To be honest.
well, like I felt like I was alone for a really, really long time. And that put me in like a really dark place. And it made me feel like I wasn't really worth a lot. So in doing that, I started like partaking in self-destructive behaviors.
Mhm.
And that led to me being in a relationship for almost 2 years with like a guy that would abuse me on the daily.
So,
Like
at which age are we talking now? Because where we left off, you were 15, right? So,
this was, I'd say it wasn't even a year after my brother died
mhm,
that I got with this guy.
I see.
And so I didn't have friends, to sit there and be like, "Hey, that guy is a piece of shit. don't don't date that guy." So I did it, and he would love bomb me, but then beat the shit out of me the next day. He
Oof.
drank. He was older than I was, and he wanted to get me pregnant at
What?
16, and he wanted me to drop out of high school. Yes, yeah,
Seriously?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my God.
It was really bad, and his family was even worse. Like they were on board with it. They wanted it. Like, and it
Wow,
was obvious
really?
that, yeah, it was obvious that they had like put that in his head that that was the way to go.
You have to wonder how common guys like that are, to be honest.
Where I'm from, it's pretty common because of it's like a religion type thing, you know.
Mhm.
You're supposed to be barefoot and pregnant, like
Ugh.
housewife thing.
That's why that's
Uneducated.
that's why I bring up the buzzword systematic a million times. But like this is a systematic. It's just freaking ingrained, in I guess in culture. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too deeply into it, but that's how I feel.
Like I'm from like the South in America where people like voted for Trump,
Yeah.
and like they still have their Trump flags up. And like even the town that I'm from, which I'm
Mhm.
obviously not going to name, but its nickname that it's known for is like linked back to like the war.
Mhm. The war?
And yeah, where they were fighting for rights to have slaves. That one, the civil,
Oh,
yeah,
I understand.
which we lost, but that does not stop them from waving the Confederate flag outside.
Ah, yes, I understand.
Yeah.
I've heard
Not
about
cool.
it. I've actually I don't think I've ever met those people in real life because once again I'm in Northern Europe, so
Yeah.
I trying to make a mental image of this is interesting to me. I'm learning as well. But
Yeah,
I've heard about it. Yeah.
the name of my town is literally based off like stuff that happened then, basically. Like it's
Mhm.
named after one of the guys who was like fighting to have slaves,
Mhm.
and is
So
known for a lot of racial prejudice and stuff like that. And I'm biracial.
so
Like,
what's the community like there? Like, is it? I don't know. It feels strange to divide it into black and white, but now I'm curious. Is it like minority? I
yeah,
guess.
I'm definitely a minority. Like when I was younger, I was in a private school, not public.
Mhm.
So they were trying to, shove the Bible down my throat and stuff like that. And I was around kind of more privileged kids
And
because they could pay to go there.
was it? By the way, was it your father or your mother? Because you said you are biracial, so I imagine
Hmm.
you are maybe part African American. Is that true?
Yeah. My father
Ah,
is, yeah. And my mom is white. Yeah.
I see. And this is uncommon in your area.
It's it's not, I won't say it's uncommon, but we
Sorry,
are
sorry if that's a
definitely the
strange question.
minority.
I'm just curious because I'm.
I'm trying to figure out how to word it because like
Mhm.
the majority of the population here is white. Like in the surrounding towns are white. But there are like it's almost like we're segregated a little because there will be like the Section 8 housing, which is like the government housing and stuff like that. That's kind of where the black people live usually. And
Mhm.
then there will be like trailer parks or something where the Mexicans will live. And then, it's stuff like that. Like you'll usually see the white people in their nicer houses, and that's just how it
So,
is.
so you feel like it's segregated?
It seems that way a little bit, yeah, because
Mhm.
there's people who have like mommy and daddy's money, you know, with the big trucks and four-wheelers, stuff like that, who are just rednecks, I would say,
Mm.
who go hunting, stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm generalizing, but it's just what I've experienced.
I've-
Those are the people who tend to be the most racist.
mhm.
Like, I have definitely had multiple occasions where I have got into altercations, whether it be verbal or whatever, like with people at school and my sister even when she was in the high school, like my biracial sister,
Mhm.
she would experience people calling her the N-word and stuff like that, and then they would have no repercussions.
Ouch.
It's kind of like you're thrown to the wolves basically.
Well, I'm sitting here commenting as a European guy, but to me, my impression, at least from what I see on social media, is there's a lot of, I guess, polarization in the USA. Because the way that and for me it's the most easy usually to identify Americans is I definitely notice they they form like usually these subcultures of that are usually based on, I guess, your identity. Does that make sense? Is that a we
Yeah,
and
like people want to group you
it
based
happens here.
on.
Yeah, it happens here too in Europe. Like I'm not saying that here everything is perfect, right? It's a pretty normal thing to look at someone and you kind of want to
Just generalize.
yeah, you kind of want to figure out like where they're from, what's their background, what's their culture. But I do feel like you guys are definitely the king of doing it, and maybe sometimes a little bit too strongly. maybe it's because
Yeah,
maybe it's because I feel like a lot of Americans are disillusioned, and they don't really have like a collective identity, so they will kind of segregate themselves into like liberal, Republican, white, African American, etc.
yeah,
Not that there's something innately wrong with doing that, I guess, because it also makes you more visible, and it's a way to connect to people who are, I guess, share your experiences. But it,
hmm
it does feel like it is so strong sometimes. That's my observation as just a generic European white guy, but that's what I see if I look at America. That's what I think.
yeah. Like when all the Black Lives Matter protests and stuff were going on, like I went to some of the rallies and the protests, the movement,
Mhm.
and one of the ones that I went to it was a city or two away, like a bigger city, because the one I'm from is really super small. Like population maybe I think less than 20,000,
Mhm.
like real small. And um when I went to the protests, I would notice that because I was not completely black, even because I was lighter skinned, that some people would kind of, look at me kind of funny, like even if they were black.
Mhm.
And it was so bad, like because we were, of course, doing the demonstrations like on sidewalks and stuff,
Mhm.
and we had gotten like permission from the police to have a moment where they would stop traffic and everything,
Mhm.
and like we would have a moment of silence, and it was for like as long as it took for them to for the cop to have sorry to asphyxiate that man. And that's
Oh
all it
yeah.
was. Like, it was supposed to be one of those moments. And
Yes, yeah,
it was
that
really
was in
impactful.
the news here too. It was Floyd, right, that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so, but during the one that we did, some woman thought that, I guess, she was too important, to sit there and wait.
Mhm.
And she tried to like go around and like go through the intersection that they were doing it at. And the cop, had to stop her and like make her go back. But like, we were experiencing like verbal abuse from people on the road from their cars and shit. Like, they would
Right.
throw stuff, whatever.
Oh,
Like,
by the way, I hate to interject, but Zoom is going to cut the call in 1 minute. We have to make a new one because every
okay,
40 minutes we have to make a new one. All right.
all right.
Let me enter it and we'll continue. I'll cut this out so it sounds like one conversation, right? So people won't hear this, but I'll make a new meeting for a second. All right.
Hi.
And we're back to the people listening. Sorry for the interruption. We're using the free version of Zoom, which means that every 14 minutes we're getting kicked out. Sorry if that interrupts the flow of the conversation, but it is what it is. This is a new podcast, so I haven't immediately gotten the business version of Zoom yet. But let's continue where we left off, right? So we were talking about, well, you were around 16, right? And
Mhm.
you got into a relationship that, well,
Yeah, was not great at all. Um,
that's a way to put it, yeah.
yeah, the best way,
Mhm,
probably. The nicest way. The
mhm.
guy was a little bit older than me, and he had mostly been homeschooled. So, like, and he was from a few cities away. So, like, I wasn't aware of who he was, but like some of the people in town knew who he was, and they knew he was a bag of shit. But like
You
I
knew.
said, yeah, like, you knew and you didn't tell me. Like,
Mm,
I had, pissed a few people off by this time. I was lashing out. I was trying to fight people. I was just unhinged
mhm.
and full of rage. And like, so no one told me, no one warned me really that this guy was going to be a huge bag of shit. And so I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but it happened. And the guy would like drink and just, he didn't want to work. I was having to work. I was working at Taco Bell. I was getting paid minimum wage while still going to school.
Mhm.
And
This is really off topic, but I've never had
mhm,
Taco Bell. I just had to put it out there. Okay, let's proceed.
I don't remember the last time I've had it, honestly.
Yeah, well,
But
I don't want to spend too much time talking about Taco Bell, but once again, you know,
yeah,
you're
not
European.
sponsored.
Yeah.
But like, he would do nice things sometimes. Like, when I was at work, he would bring me, say, like, flowers or something, and
Aw.
everybody would be like, "Oh, I'm so jealous, I wish my boyfriend would do that." And I'd be like, "Yeah, but does he like threaten you with a gun like when you're at home?" I doubt it.
Mm.
But that's the type of person that he was. Like, he shouldn't have had a gun, but he did somehow, because that's just how stuff happens here sometimes in America.
Mhm.
And it was it was a terrifying time, honestly. Like, I'm laughing, but like, it was really scary. I have to like make jokes about it.
Yeah, that's
It's really hard to like not let yourself be drugged down when you think about it for a while.
mhm,
But that's why I just kind of, try to laugh about it, because some of it is just ridiculous. Like,
mhm.
I if I hadn't lived through it, I would not believe it, probably.
I mean, I feel like, you know, being able to joke about it, maybe that's one of the best ways to grieve, you know? I feel like too many people, when you go through bad things in life, some people have all their experience from like soap series and they think that you have to be stereotypically sad about it or depressed. But like, if you are able to joke
Yeah.
about it, like, by all means, that is not a disturbing thing. I'd say that's that's then you're like in more in the advanced stages, maybe even of being able to talk about
Yeah.
it. But
Like at this point, I have had since 2015 to process a lot of things, like
I
a
can
lot of
only imagine.
things.
Mhm.
And so, hell, I'm gonna laugh about it. Like I've been the one processing it. I can laugh about it.
You should absolutely.
But so the relationship like was very shitty, and he would try and make me stop taking like the birth control that I was on, so I would have to like secretly go to my appointments and like still be on it.
Well,
And he would be like, "Why are you not getting pregnant?" And I'd be like, "I don't know." Who knows? But at the same time, his parents wanted us to get married, like to live in their house or whatever.
yeah. I mean,
And
I feel like that's almost entrapment, because the moment that you get like a young girl like that pregnant, what other options does she have? She can't leave. I feel like
yep,
I feel like that's kind of the point, isn't it? Get her pregnant young, and I
yep.
mean, and then you got a
When she
girl,
doesn't
you got
really
a girlfriend
know,
for life, right?
yeah. When she doesn't really know, what's going on. It's really like I know that at that time I was really, really gullible, really easily manipulated. Like he cheated on me several times,
I
and
mean, the fact that you secretly went out to get birth control is probably like one of the most best judgments you could have, right? Because
yeah, like, and
so
that was
so maybe there was a part of you that didn't fall for it.
even that, like small things like that was basically me risking my life to a degree, because if he had found out, I would have gotten the shit beaten out of me.
Mhm.
Like, and his parents, like, I knew that I did not want to end up like his parents, because they, like, she had gotten pregnant very young, and like now they're devout Christians or whatever, but they don't sleep together because they cheated on each other so much when they were
Ah,
younger, and
yeah,
they're
that's
just that distrust.
to be
But
fair,
they
that's
don't want to
that's a
get a
very
divorce.
Christian thing to do in general. So yeah.
Yeah, and they still go to church, as a family, quote
Mm,
unquote.
very
But she would sleep on the couch and he would sleep in the bed.
very
Yeah,
traditional.
right. And so they wanted us to get married, and like it got to the point where he did take me to the courthouse, and we did get like the certificate thing, like paid for it, but like
Oh,
it didn't get signed, so it wasn't official.
no,
Thank
no
God.
no super sweet 16 or
I did actually. He,
oh my.
yeah, I don't think he was at it. No, he wasn't at it. Mm-mm. Thank God. It was a very odd time at the Sweet 16 too, but
Hmm.
that's just weird. But yeah, I was with him almost 2 years, and then I finally left, but I was like in fear for my life, basically.
So how did you like how did you gather the courage to leave in the first place? Because I wonder.
It took like I started, going over to my grandma's more often. He had kept me like pretty like kept away from my family, like isolated. And then, like I said, his parents didn't want us like sleeping together unless we were married, and I wasn't doing that. So we were having to sleep in my car,
Oh,
like on the side of the road sometimes. Yeah.
yeah.
And so I started going to my grandma's more often so that I could have like a bed to sleep in and stuff like that. And one of my cousins was staying with her at the time, and hanging out with her, like, she was like, hey, maybe maybe the life we're living right now with that guy isn't so good. I hate that guy. He's a piece of shit. He's a real piece of shit.
But he gave you flowers.
Right, he gave me flowers. It's not like he put a gun to my head later. What? Right? Who cares? The
He what?
flowers. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Like once it progressed past the point where he would put his hands on me and I would start to get physical, like in return, or like try to be defensive.
yeah. Then it
He was
escalates.
like, okay. And he got like, it started out with like knives and then it went to guns, which he wasn't even old enough to buy.
I mean,
And
I don't think you can
so,
get worse than that, to be honest.
yeah, that and mix it with
Like
the alcohol and just,
you can bring out something worse than a gun, but it doesn't matter at that point, you know.
yeah.
Uh, but
And
yeah.
the town that he lived in only had like 13 cops, I think, on their task force.
Hmm.
And they, like, he was friends with the sheriff. So wasn't really anything going to happen there.
Really?
And yeah. And the night that I left, like, he had, like, kicked me in the rib so hard, like, he had, like, fractured my rib.
Oh my God.
His mom watched him slap my nose ring, like straight out of my nose. And when I hit him back, she was like, "Oh, I see how it is."
What?
I was like, well, that doesn't even make sense. But
Wow. I think
the,
we were already far past sense at this point, but damn.
yeah,
Mm.
that night I ended up leaving, and I got my grandpa to go with me, like back up there to that city, to the police station, to like, report it or whatever. And the cop asked me, they were like, are you sure you're not just gonna go back? Like, and they made it seem like it would be a problem for me to like even place a report or to get a restraining order. They said I didn't have enough proof, basically.
Mm.
Like, I didn't have a ground to stand on to like get one. So, uh, this is okay. This sounds so outlandish. I obviously had no care for my own, you know, being. So when I was in fear for my life, which that
Yes.
sounds contradictory, even it is, it's literally the opposite, but still, I went out on a limb and there was this guy that I had met online on Omegle, out of all places. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yes, that's where healthy relationships start, right, Omegle?
Right. I met
Yeah.
him before I had gotten into the relationship, like before my brother had even died. I met him like long time like ago. And I had seen him, I had talked to him since then. I felt like he was kind of an okay bet to not be a serial killer, or a sex
Yeah, I mean,
trafficker or anything.
yeah, you have to have some standards, right?
Yeah. So I was like, and he lived a state away, and I had never really like driven out of state by myself or anything. Like, and I was 18, like just graduated and stuff, like when I had left the guy.
Mhm.
So I called Omegle dude and I was like, hey, you want to hang out? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe he'll
And
bring some flowers.
yeah, so I drove like 2.5, 3 hours to
Wow.
like the middle of fucking nowhere, like to this weird stranger's house. And well, his friend's house. It was technically his friend's. And that was because he was like, "Oh, you just have to leave your car parked here, and we'll drive to my house. Like, we just don't have, space for your car." Da, da, da. I was like, "Okay,
Mhm.
cool." We we pull into, this suburb, and I was like, "Wow, fancy," because I'm from a poor, like I lived in a trailer.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I still live in a trailer, but you know,
Mhm.
he had like a nice brick house and I had nice cars in the yard. You could tell that they were like Republican family, nice white happy family.
Mhm.
And it only got like a little weird when he snuck me in through the window.
He what?
He snuck me in through his window and I was like, All right.
Wow.
And I didn't have my car either. So it wasn't like I could be like, I'm leaving.
What's wrong with the front door?
I
Why?
wasn't supposed to be there.
Ah, is,
Yeah.
why though? Didn't his parents like it or what?
Like, ah, like they were just super strict. And the fact that he was the age that he was, because like I tended to go for older dudes. Like,
Yeah.
so he was like maybe like 20s. He was 20 something. And like he was still living with his parents. So they were like, why are you such a loser? Kind of, disappointed in him a little bit. Like, get a life. That's kind of how it was.
Mm.
And also, I'm not going to say they were racist, because when they did meet me at a later time, like they never like called me the N word or
No,
anything like that.
it's more subtle than that. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
They're
Like,
gonna, if you make a mistake, they're gonna come down on you harder, right? Something like that.
yeah.
It's kind of
Like,
subtle.
why can't you be with a nice white girl or something? I
Hmm.
felt like I needed to act white in front of them. Like, I felt like I had to be a different person.
How do you act white though? I
Like,
have no idea.
I felt like I couldn't cuss or anything. And I,
Do,
like, usually I have a mouth like a sailor.
do you think I act
Like,
white?
I mean, like, I don't, it's so, like, this is putting stuff into perspective for me as well. Like,
No, I understand.
because it's, it's a different, like, dynamic, I think. And
It is.
I
I mean,
think it
it
would be
is.
the same like if I went across the country as well.
Yeah, it's different subcultures and stuff as well, right? Let's be honest. It's a little bit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But that it was that the first night that I was at that guy's house, after the whole window thing, and I heard something like in the bushes, and I was like,
Uh-oh.
what's in the bushes? And
Don't tell
it
me
was
it
like
came from Omegle, did it?
he opened like we heard someone start to open the window, and I thought we were getting robbed or something. I was like, this is a nice rich people neighborhood. Like, why are we getting robbed right now? But he shoves me like into the hall, into the bathroom, and he's like, don't say anything. And I was like, all right. So I'm just like sitting on the like sink, and I'm like, this is weird. And I can hear him like through the wall because it's right by his bedroom. And he's talking in shushed voices to a female, obviously. And she's like, I know you got that bitch here.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, oh my God. And I'm trying so hard like to keep my composure. And like I felt like I was in a war zone, like hostiles everywhere.
I mean, I was like, damn, it was kind of like getting romantic, but now
Yeah, like we were quietly watching, TV or whatever,
mm,
whispering a little bit. And then someone crossed through the window. I was like,
yeah,
why is it even unlocked? Who does that? What?
it's like Romeo and Juliet, right?
Right?
Right.
But it turns out it was he told me it was his ex, but he had not broken up with her yet. But
Oh
that was
my God.
unbeknownst to me. Yeah. And my ex, crazy ex, was still trying to contact me to get me to like come back, because I had done it before where I was like, I'm fucking leaving, and then I'll just come back. But this time was like, no. And he like ended up, I don't know how he did it, but he ended up getting a hold of like the new guy's ex-girlfriend, who was crazy, obviously. And my ex and his ex ended up dating.
What? What?
Yes. Yes. And he tried to get her pregnant, and she moved a state away to live with him at one point.
I mean, I mean, in a way, you both got revenge on your ex by hooking those people up, if you think about it.
But
Damn.
they made it their goal in life to like make our lives shitty. So they would like follow us around the town that he lived in, like whenever they would be up there, and they would take pictures and places that we had been that day, like later on, and post them. And it was weird. It was odd, like the
I'm
strangest
speechless.
thing.
That's like
And
I can't imagine like being in a relationship based on a mutual hatred for our exes. Like how
right?
that's some
Yeah.
Tom and Jerry kind of shit, you know? That's so weird. Damn.
She ended up actually cheating on like my ex
Mm.
with his best friend.
Oh,
So that happened.
I'm not even shocked anymore at this point. So
Yeah. And then she ended up moving back like after that. And it was just weird because I obviously was not living a state away. Um
man.
and I still had to like work and stuff like that. And I had gotten like pulled over for speeding. And I happened to have weed in the car. So I had court cases that I had to be in the state for.
Mhm.
And so obviously I could not stay with the dude like 24/7. But one day, like I was in the DUI class or whatever, because I got charged. They tried to charge me with a DUI, but I ended up getting it dropped, the charge like or reduced because I did the DUI class for weed. Anyway, and while I was sitting in there, like I got a text and it was like just this video from his like my now boyfriend's ex, like well not now but like then my then boyfriend's ex, and it was just a video and it was of them like having sex,
What?
like, and I
What?
was like, oh my
How?
god, oh
How?
my god.
How?
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. And then that came with screenshots and stuff from like him and her talking, where they had been seeing each other again, stuff like that. Yeah. Not fun. Not fun.
Well, when I was growing up, I used to find it mildly embarrassing that the first time I had a girlfriend, I was 24 years old. But maybe in hindsight, maybe that's not maybe that can
Yeah,
be a good thing as well, you
you
know.
saved yourself. The guy that I'm with now, he like not to put his business out there or anything, but like he didn't really date anyone either until like he was 20, 20,
Hmm.
20 when he got with me. We've been together almost 2 years now. So
So you're still together now.
yeah, our anniversary
Well,
is
that's
next
good.
month on the 5th. So
Let's hope it's a happy ending for you then.
yeah, he's a really good dude. Like I knew him back, like me, him, and my brother used to hang out and stuff.
Hmm.
So that was cool.
That is
But
cool.
like, I guess that we can go ahead and hop right on into that.
Mhm.
How me and him ended up like reconnecting because he had like moved away and stuff like to Texas. Not cool. And he did it like he told me it was because like, you know, he had some girl he liked over there, da 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 da. But turns out it was because he liked me, but he was too afraid to say anything.
Oh yeah,
Not
so
trying to
you get the
brag.
so you get the hard to get thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he
Wow.
moved state like halfway
Wow.
across the country.
This
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
girl is my soulmate. Let me cheat on her. Hmm.
But it was all a lie. But he did move. So that wasn't cool. But when my mom got out of jail, like uh and I had already, broken up with cheating guys, whatever. I'd already dated like two other guys after that. And then the guy that I was with at the time, like my mom got out of prison, had just gone to jail for like a drug charge. And I started to see like this pattern in my life. Like I started to see the cycle. And I was like, I'm not becoming my mom at all. Like, I already did not get pregnant. I passed that test. Boom.
Well, I think what really speaks for you is I noticed on several occasions in your story you were definitely in a position that any other girl, being as young as you were, would have become stuck, such as getting the birth control secretly, but also just managing to escape from your eggs and kind of sneaking, I guess, into the life of a new person. I do think
Yeah.
I do think that's a testament to you, though. I guess if I had to give you a compliment, right, your personality definitely seems to have some fortitude, right, to choose your own way. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people would be trapped, right, in those situations, right. But at least you had you had the willpower, right. So
Yeah. Be
that saved you,
feeling
maybe.
that way. Yeah, feeling that way. And then like the sudden like suicide of my brother, like that made
Hmm.
me a really observant person. And I didn't want people to like backstab me or like, act funny towards me. So I always felt like I had to be on high alert around people, because I always felt like they were gonna like shit on me. And like that also led me to being proactive, though probably, well, definitely more than I should have. And that's why a lot of relationships just went bad because like I was like, I'm gonna leave you before you can fuck me over, or I'm gonna fuck you over before you can do that to me.
Maybe you're not even wrong, because people are judgmental, especially if you've been through all that shit. Let's be honest. People are gonna judge
Yeah,
you, which sucks, but that's what it is.
yeah. A lot of people think that they can handle it, and then they just can't. And to each their own. People grow how you know they grow and go. It's whatever.
Hmm.
And but the guy that went to jail and stuff for the drug charges, he did get me on drugs, unfortunately, and like hard drugs, and it was not cool at all. And it got even worse when like he went to jail, and so I was by myself. I was having to send him money while he was in jail because his parents were like not doing it. And so I was having to like support him, and it just wasn't a cool situation.
What do you need
And
money for in jail, though?
for like commissary to like get snacks and like
Ah,
stuff like that. And um
I
for
didn't
video
realize.
calls.
I didn't
And
realize people have expenses in jail. Maybe I'm ignorant,
hmm
but
yeah. Yeah, they like you can quote unquote work in jail,
damn.
but you only earn like cents on the dollar or something, like, and everything is like triple the price in jail basically.
So you're gonna lock me up? I'm still gonna have to work. Damn.
Yeah, like it's wild. The prison system is institute it's just slavery. Like it's legalized slavery.
I mean, kind of. Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
not a fun time. And but like me being on like the drugs and stuff, I ended up, of course, like with another guy who was doing drugs because my quote unquote boyfriend like was in jail.
Hmm.
And he like when he was in there, I got like all his belongings and stuff, and of course I went through his phone, and I found out he cheated on me over 100 times. I stopped counting at 114.
I'm I'm go- I'm gonna be honest though. Like everything you mentioned so far, like from your family to your relationship, like 90% of it comes kind of down to drugs, doesn't it? If you think about it.
Yeah, yeah. The area I'm in, it being a poverty area, there's also a lot of like drug use
Hmm.
and stuff like that. And it's partly because there's nothing to do here. Like we have like one movie theater, like, and it did close down. Like
I mean, if I don't have
there's
anything to do, I'm not gonna do drugs. I mean, that's a joke, but
yeah,
I understand that people who live in a more desperate situation are more looking for an escape. I guess
yeah,
it's a
like
it's a
anything for a little excitement,
yeah, it's a vicious
just a little
cycle.
something different.
I mean, You go through hardship because I guess because of the drugs, and
Hmm.
you go through
And they
poverty
definitely didn't
because
help. Yeah.
yeah, but it's like it also keeps people down, so
Hmm.
that they keep using. I know it's
Yeah.
I guess I'm spitting some obvious truth here, but I'm just thinking out loud. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's
But I did end up with another dude, like, and I was staying with him for a little bit, and that's when I was like at my worst. Like I was literally like basically living in a trap house. Like
in a what?
in a trap house, like drugs were coming and going,
Oh,
and there, like
I'm
mainly.
unfamiliar with the word trap house, so I was confused.
Oh, it's a more common here.
Okay, I
Like
never heard of it. So,
that's basically what it is, like a hot spot for like criminal activity, basically.
so
And like, um, I was on a copious amount of drugs, copious,
mhm.
and like it just got bad. And with my mental health, I told you I've been diagnosed with like bipolar disorder. I have depression. I've been diagnosed with anxiety, like autism, like a lot, like a list of things
Mhm.
that just goes on. But
Would you care
um,
to mention them because I am curious?
like well, like I said, I have the
Mhm.
anxiety, and then bipolar disorder, and
Mhm.
then later on I got diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia,
Mm.
which I think was partly, it didn't help that I was on drugs. Like that kind of like skyrocketed me
Yeah,
into
I mean,
going.
from what I understand, the causes of schizophrenia are a little bit unknown to science, but it's a thing where it's a combination of nature and nurture, right? It's genetic factors plus environmental
Yeah.
factors, and one of the environmental factors is definitely drugs. Like
Hmm.
if you're susceptible for it, and one of the big risk factors, I guess, is drugs. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's
But
an interesting one though, I think, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it, So
yeah. Whenever like I don't really like to tell anyone that I have schizophrenia because they obviously will start being like, "Oh, so you're crazy," but like
yeah, but no,
I'm not.
no, I agree. The thing is that like books and movies they often depict people with schizophrenia and related mental illnesses like dangerous and violent. By the way,
Yeah.
I should put this out there. By the way, if anyone is listening, I have to address the viewers for a second, but I'm pretty sure schizophrenia, right, does not
Mhm.
like give you a split personality. That is
No,
the
that's a different disorder.
exactly, yeah. I think that's called dissociative identity disorder, and it is completely separate from schizophrenia. But each time it's depicted in movies or TV, it's like, oh, this character they have schizophrenia, so it's like, they're kind of like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. They give them two personalities.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm explaining this in a very crude way, but I think it's important to put that out there.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
it it really is, like there's a lot of stigma around it, just like with the drug use thing, there's a lot of stigma around that
Mm.
as well. And but
So did you
um
experience like hallucinations or?
yes.
Mm.
And it's mainly started when I was at that trap house and they left me by myself.
Ah.
And like my brain was like all over the place. Like, and my house had also gotten robbed. Like
Mhm.
someone came like while I was out and like stole like my Xbox, my TV, and all that other stuff. And that
Yeah.
definitely didn't help with my paranoia because that sent me into overdrive.
I mean,
Like,
it kind of validates your paranoia. While it's delusional paranoia, you are also getting validated in those delusions in a way.
yeah,
Because
because like I felt like I was hearing stuff like before
yeah,
like the robbery, and it turns out someone had been like sitting outside in my shed, like on like watching my house, basically.
it forces you to have like a healthy level of paranoia, which kind of exacerbates the delusional paranoia, I suppose, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but
Mm.
like when I started going through it and stuff, like I didn't want to stay at that house anymore. And that house was the same house that my brother had committed suicide at. So it was already like a bad spot for me.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
I'd
that
never moved
totally makes
from
sense. That totally makes sense.
it was like it's just a lot of bad memories, bad vibes, like and I just didn't like staying there. And that's how I ended up with that other guy at the trap house.
Mhm.
And from there, like I didn't want to stay with the guy anymore. I thought he was the one that took my stuff from my house. It just I didn't want to talk to him. So I ended up in my grandma's closet. Like, and I'm talking like Harry Potter had a better setup than I did. Like,
I was like, am I going to bring up Harry Potter or is that inappropriate? But you did it for me.
he had a better setup than I did. Like, I'm very petite, like very short, but I still had to I couldn't straighten my legs out all the way, and I was like sleeping in this closet.
Oh my
Like I
god.
would sleep in there. I would hardly leave. Like I dropped to like 60 pounds, I think it was,
Wow.
and like they almost had to put in a feeding tube,
Mhm.
and like it was a necessary evil, but it didn't have to go the way it did. Because what ended up happening was I was having the paranoid, episodes and stuff, and
Yes.
it got really, really bad to the point where I was saying, "Oh, I'm hearing voices like people whispering to me through the walls." Like I I was having to like knock on the wall because my grandpa was like on the other side
Mhm.
because he got in a motorcycle accident when I was like 13, and so he's paraplegic, which means like he's paralyzed from like chest down,
Mhm.
like half of his diaphragm and like the rest down. So he's in a hospital bed. So he has to like stay in that one room. So I would knock on the wall whenever I thought I would hear someone or hear something. And if he knocked back, it was real. If he didn't, it wasn't. And like that was like the one thing I was like holding on to, like through me having these like hallucinations.
Well,
And
it does sound like on some level you were aware of the hallucinations being hallucinations, I guess.
yeah, but it was only because like my mother was like, because I was obviously starting just, they were trying to get me to come out of the closet. They were like, you're being kind of weird. Like, eh. and, but what wasn't helping was my
Yeah.
mother was sitting there being like, you're being crazy. Why
Yeah.
are you doing
Yeah.
that?
Why
That's
can't you be normal in the closet, you know?
that that's literally the thing she was saying to me as I'm having a schizophrenic episode and I did not know
Wow.
what was going on. She was like, you need to stop acting so crazy. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
You didn't hear, like, you didn't
Let
hear
me
the
be
people?
a functioning, well-adjusted person here sitting in my closet, you know.
Like, totally.
Mm.
And
It is dark. It
what
is dark.
I I ended up calling like 911 on myself because it had gotten to the point where I was having such bad hallucinations that I thought that my family was going to kill me and my dog. And like my dog, I got her for like my birthday. Like I went to the pound and I rescued her and stuff. And like that dog is my life now. And she's the only dog I've ever like taken care of. So like I will give my life for that dog. I like that's my baby. And so when I started having like, the hallucinations that they were gonna kill her, I was like, oh no, that
Oh,
is it. So
not this time.
I ended up calling like 911 like on myself, basically, and being like they're trying to kill me, going on. And so officers ended up coming out to the house. And like my mom was like, oh no, she's just off her meds, like she's being crazy, blah blah blah. And they left. And I was like, what?
So I want to comment on this, but I see that in 1 minute is going to cut the call. We have to make a new one. We're up for a new one, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I think I can finish it that time around. I'm
All
trying
right.
to close
No,
it up.
you're doing wonderfully, really. I think you're in a way you're really charming about it, just giggling about it. Kind of feels like we are reading a crazy fantasy book. Like not to
Yeah.
belittle it, of course.
I told you it's like I wouldn't have believed it if I have not lived it.
Yeah.
It sounds so outlandish.
Okay, let me go to the break. It's gonna kick us out. All right, be right back.
All right. All right.
All right, let me
Yep.
start recording. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, we're back. I started missing your voice already.
Yeah. Because, 3 parts, who doesn't want 3 parts of me just talking?
Yeah, it's one conversation, but I do think you have a cute voice, though.
Usually
Anyway,
people say I sound like a 13-year-old boy. Like,
oh man, don't
like when I'm
listen.
on the
Don't
game or
listen to
something.
them. Don't listen to them. Yeah, you don't need that negativity. Let's go.
Yeah.
You
I
don't
guess I
need.
hope I'm
You
like
don't need.
5'1".
Yeah. You don't need that negativity. Let's talk about how you were in the closet, right?
Yeah. All right.
No. Okay, let's continue.
Alrighty. So, I was in the closet. I had called 911 on myself. My mom was like, "Oh, she's just crazy, off her meds, whatever." And they left, but it kept getting worse. And the next time that I called them, they came and like the EMTs were checking me out. And this is when I was going through withdrawals from drugs. So it was really like hard on my body. It was really hard on my mind. But I was trying to get through it. And this one particular day, it was really, really super hard. And I had called them on myself because my mom was acting weird, or to my mind, she was acting weird because she was walking around on the phone talking to someone. She wouldn't get off the phone even if I tried to talk to her. Like I felt like the person on the other line was like a hitman or something. I didn't know.
But what was going through your mind when you called? Like, did you realize that it was because of the schizophrenia, or?
I, I like I was really confused. I was really, really, really confused because like I knew that we had like a history of mental health issues in our family, but I did not think that it was gonna like hit me like that. Like I've done like LSD and stuff, like shrooms. I had good times on it, and these hallucinations, like because I never really quote unquote hallucinated, like saw, like up, like how they'll make cartoonish, in movies or something when people are on LSD, like this it was I've never gotten to that point. It's just a nice trip for me, but this was like scary shit. Like people were like whispering through the walls that I was going to be murdered. Not cool. Not a vibe.
Well, what I find interesting is people with schizophrenia, they often lack awareness that their difficulties stem from a mental disorder that requires medical attention. So it often falls to family or friends to get them help, right? So
Yeah.
I was wondering, are you the exception to that, or was it generally your delusions that made you call the police, or were you aware at some level, like
It
this is not reality?
it was the delusions because like I was also hearing like these horrible, like I still cringe if I hear it now, like it was like a saw sound, and like where I was staying there was like a whole bunch of acres and acres of land and shit, and like I was convinced that the person that I had been staying with, that guy, that like my family had like killed him because he got me on the drugs, or like because he was like feeding me drugs basically. Like I thought he was trying to kill me at one point, like literally actually did, because he
That's
had like
dangerous.
he had pre-made like the drugs was gonna give me, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. And he had done a dose like, for him when he was like 3 times my size.
So So how is it nowadays? Because from what I understand, schizophrenia is a lifelong um, psychotic disorder, isn't it? It's chronic.
Yeah, yeah, like I will have episodes where it'll get bad, but
Mhm.
like I, for me, I'd say like my dog is also a grounding thing for me. Like I try to, and I meditate, and I know that sounds so cheesy and like
No,
corny, like
I like that word that you used, a grounding thing.
yeah, I try to. That's I. It's just easier for me to stay grounded and stuff when I have things that I know that are solid and real. Because I have like I will disassociate sometimes. I will like
Mhm.
depersonalize like and have derealizations and think shit like I'm in a simulation. Like that's been like a whole episode for me where I was convinced
Yes.
like and it everything was pointless to me then because nothing was real, you know?
Yeah, that's I think that's a common persistent delusion that people have. Yeah.
Yeah. And but the grounding thing and remembering stuff like and I've kind of become a hoarder because stuff like from my brother that I kept and like just things that I have, you know, deep rooted memories with, I like to keep because that's what reminds me, you know, hey, you're real. This is real. You know, like that these things for sure are real and
Yeah.
aren't gonna hurt you. Like, and that
Yeah.
really helps me.
I mean, not to sound pretentious, but in the end of the day, memories is all that we are, aren't we? So
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's
and
on some level it's a cute concept, just grounding things. I don't know why.
yeah,
it's cute in a way.
it's kind of like my house has kind of become like a crow's nest of just like little things that like mean a lot to me. It's like a big memoir type thing when you go through my house. It's
I should ask you, how old are you today?
22. I turned 22
Oh,
this
you
year.
are so young. You're a small grasshopper, really.
Yeah.
Really, you are. There's a, I'm sure there's a lot more experiences waiting for you. I hope good ones.
I
I
hope
hope
they're
for
good
sure.
ones.
Yeah, you build a massive crow's nest, like a stork nest.
um uh I'm trying to remember. Okay, yeah. I didn't want to get like off track. But when I was withdrawing from the drugs and I ended up calling, you know, 911 on myself again. Like that time when the EMTs were checking me out, that's when I was more towards coming out of the like the hallucinations and stuff
Mhm.
and becoming more clear-headed. And I told the EMTs straight up, I was like, I'm coming off of drugs. Um, I'm good now. Like I realized, you know, I'm not in any danger. Da, da, da. And they were gonna let me go. And then there was like a knock on the outside of the ambulance, and it was a cop. And they had talked to, you know, my mom, and she had told them, and this is true. She didn't lie, but like, come on now, because like before I had called them when I was still in the closet, she was trying to make me come out, and like I did put a knife to my throat. Okay, trigger warning, sorry, but I did, and I was like, I wonder if this is what my brother felt like, before he did it, and that's what I said because she was trying to pull me out the closet, and I did not want to come out.
Mhm.
Like, leave me alone. I'm trying to keep my sanity in the
So
closet.
I apologize if this is a dark question, but were you bluffing or were you prepared to go through with it?
Then at that moment, I think like the feeling that I was feeling, it was real. but I really just wanted her to leave me alone.
I understand.
Like, please get away from me, because she's like very
Yeah,
in
so
your
it's
face and
more
like,
it's more like a fight or flight response kind of thing.
yeah,
So
because
you go
she
to
had me
extremes.
cornered. Like, because I was in the closet and I told you I couldn't even stretch out my legs, and she opens the
Yeah,
door to the closet and she's
yeah.
standing in the doorway.
Sorry if
Like,
that's a heavy question, but I was just kind of
it
wondering.
it no, it's totally cool. Like, that's I felt like a fucking caged animal, like, at that moment. Like, I just wanted out.
Yeah.
Like, and I, at that time, like, when I was sitting in the closet, I had kind of made it up, like, in my head that I would, like, die in there, basically. Like, whether it be by my own hand or by someone else's, because I had no motivation to really do anything at all.
Mhm.
Like, and that's why I just wasn't leaving. Like, I became a recluse, and like, I didn't even want to go outside. And I I just didn't know what to do. Like, and it ended up with me being 1013, which is like, she told them about the incident that had happened, which she didn't call them and tell them, hey, my daughter is being suicidal, da 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 da. She waited until I called them on myself to tell them the situation that happened. And so at that
That's
point,
very true.
they took my rights away, and I had to be put in the hospital for a week where I didn't see the sun and I didn't get to shower.
In the
So,
hospital.
yeah,
I mean,
she
that's something you would expect in prison, but in the hospital.
the the hospital in our town is notorious for bullshit.
My God.
Like, you'll go for a headache and you will leave with a terminal illness.
I mean, reflecting about all of this, this is going to sound so cliche, but I would almost say it's not just you, it's the system, It sounds so cliche, but like
Yeah.
everything is against you at some level, isn't it? Like, let's be real.
Yeah, and I hate to say that because I don't,
No,
like we
it's
were
true, man.
saying,
It's
like, you
true.
have to
You
take
can say it.
accountability. But like, some of these things, like, you just got
No,
to be like, man,
no, fuck accountability, seriously.
like, can a bitch catch a break sometimes? Just give me a crumb, a little bit
Yeah.
of serotonin. Come on now.
I mean, you're not wrong, man. It's like,
But when I got out finally, oh my God, like, I was actually looking into suing, like doing a lawsuit against the hospital for like neglect, because like, I also was trying to blame like the schizophrenia thing on like an ear problem that I was having.
I mean,
I think that was like me in denial.
you probably have the I guess the genetic how do you call it, the genetic predisposition for mental health disorders, but like it's important not to pin everything on that, right? It's not
Yeah.
important because we are responsible for some things in life, but it's important not to take those things and pin everything on the small amount responsibility we have, while ignoring the many times we are completely and utterly powerless, which is just how reality is. In a lot of cases we are simply just powerless and we get fucked. Yep. Just,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just a little rant there, but yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can blame the system. We should do that more.
I destroy the system. Like, Viva la
Yeah.
revolution. Let's go.
I mean, being born with issues, right? Again, there are reasons and there are justifications, and maybe being born troubled in a certain way. I hate saying that because it's very difficult to judge if someone is born troubled or not. But some things are definitely more genetic, or just the circumstances that you are born in. And what I think it's just kind of important to reflect on the things that you didn't have a say in. And being born a certain way doesn't mean that you know doesn't justify I guess not being taken care of the appropriate way, because I think people do have a right at some level to receive help. And it's,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't seem like one of those people who would say, I deserve it for having schizophrenia. But I know that there would be a lot of people who would look at their mental health disorders and they will just say, well, it's all on me, right? Because I am this way. But being that way doesn't mean that, it doesn't justify being let down in a way like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm trying to say.
Like
I ramble a lot because English is not my native language, but that's
I
important, right?
you're really good though. Like I don't want to say you're really good at it because like that sounds you're really good at talking. Like
I'm
no.
trying. I'm trying.
But like I without like you having the accent or anything, I wouldn't have been able to tell most likely.
Well, good. My accent keeps me a little bit exotic, huh?
Yeah.
But no, but seriously, that's how your story made me feel. Like maybe there's it's difficult, to think about how we are responsible for certain things in life, but on the other hand,
Yeah.
we are accountable but powerless at the same time. Like, how does that work? You're
Yeah. It, like
you're accountable for the things that happen to you, but how much? There's a limit to how accountable you are.
yeah.
There's
And
a
like
limit.
there's been times like because I only hit, like I'd say like the key traumatic events in my life really that I feel like shaped me and like or like tried to shape me, but you know
Mhm.
and but there's still like so much more loss and like just bullshit, because it didn't occur to me that there could be people in the world that have not experienced like the death of a loved one or anything.
I
Like
haven't.
my boyfriend hasn't either. Like, and it's such a like weird concept to me because like I've had like just off the top of my head like six people that like I cared for like or like loved, had a relationship with in my life just either unexpectedly just die or like something like that. Like
Well, let me talk about myself a little bit. But
mhm.
I have a relatively normal upbringing. I have a relatively normal childhood. I have never lost a loved one or a family member, or I don't even know what grief like that feels like, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I am not free of issues. For example, I have a diagnosis of autism, um,
Mhm.
but I also have two very supportive and protective middle class parents who support everything I do. So I'm careful with throwing the word privilege around because it gets very politicized. But yeah, in a way,
Yeah.
like I have grown up. I am like one of those grass-fed cows, who produce the best milk, and they've been sheltered from most of the problems in their life.
Yeah.
And when I had problems in my life, my parents were there to bail me out. So, but that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast, because I am clueless, but it's actually so much more common than you realize that stuff like this happens to people constantly,
Yeah.
and to more people in your surroundings than you imagine. And I think it's
Yeah.
important to give it some level of consideration, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what
And
I
like that's why it's good to like treat everyone with kindness,
I agree.
unless they give you a reason not to. Sometimes you just gotta slap a bitch. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, if they put you in the closet, you can, but
Yeah.
mm,
But like just you really never know what someone's actually like going through like in their head and stuff
mhm,
like that. And like I know that even before I, had like my episodes and stuff, started having them, that I kind of even was like, oh, you're crazy about some stuff.
mhm.
I would be like, weird about it.
So, how are you doing nowadays? How do you
Uh,
feel?
um, I know that I'm doing a lot better mentally now. Like, after, I got out of the hospital, I ended up like reconnecting with my now boyfriend, and like we ended up moving like it was like that same month that I got out of the hospital. We ended up moving in with one of my brother's ex-wives,
Mm.
and we stayed with her a little bit in another state until that went sideways, but that was stupid. But we have our own house now. We just got our own house.
Oh, that's good.
And
It's
my
good to not be
dog.
dependent on people. That's where you often get fucked over, where you depend on someone.
Yeah, that's really what happened there, because we were states away, we were working and everything, but like we
Yeah.
were still living in her house, her rules. And one day we had a argument, or whatever you want to call it, disagreement. And
Mhm.
like that same day, like we were basically like homeless.
Oh my God.
And it was like we were about to get our own apartment like there too. And that's really where I want to go back to, because like I do photography and stuff, and like I would take my dog to the little
Mm.
national parks and stuff like every day. Like she have a blast.
So,
And here I can't do that really.
is that your hobby, like nature photography, or
Yeah.
just to add some lighthearted stuff, I guess? But
Yeah, I like to do like macro photography and stuff like that.
insects?
Yeah. I'm
That's how
like,
you know me.
yep. Like I got a camera, my first professional like digital camera last year. No, it was the year before last, I think. For like my birthday. And like I've been trying to work up the money to get a lens for it, because I got like the two basic lenses, and then I want the zoom lens so that I can get like the really nice details.
Those are expensive as fuck.
They are. And like we had an emergency hospital visit with my dog recently, and she's got like glaucoma. She needs to have surgery on her eye.
Mm.
And we just got the house and everything. So the camera kind of got put on the back burner, the lens
Yeah.
for now.
Well, you're young. I'm pretty sure it will come your way at some point.
Yeah. Like
Some
it's
point.
there's a lot of pressure, like, because there are people that I've graduated with that are, married with like whole children
Whole
and
children.
whole children,
Oh, damn.
like crawling and stuff. Like, what? And I'm just here with my two cats and my dog and my snails.
I mean, nothing against having children, I guess, but like, yeah, that's often where the cycle repeats, doesn't it? If you rush into that,
Yeah. And like
that's where you get
I'm
to the start of your story. It usually
yeah.
it starts with that and it ends with that and it continues. So maybe in a way, it's breaking the cycle, some way.
Yeah. Hopefully, like, because I have my cousin who, like, we grew up together really close. Like we're not as close as we were, but she was only born like a month after I
Mhm.
was. And so we're the same age and everything, but she has like a son now and stuff like that.
Well,
So I have a godson, but like our lives are completely different, like
mhm.
in terms of like motherhood and stuff like that. Like,
Well,
and
I
I think
already
it's just like facing the cycle. Like you have to face it.
I already feel emotionally invested in the rest of your life now, but I'm
Give me
rooting for you
constant
to go
updates.
well. Pretty much. Yeah, maybe. Positive updates, I think, I hope. But
Yeah.
you never know what life brings, though.
Yeah.
That's neither a
But
good
I've
or a bad thing, I guess. But
I think I've had my fill of bad, at least for a little while.
yeah, but what's a fill, right?
Yeah, true.
I mean, people are really into stuff like karma and stuff, but like, no, I don't subscribe to that.
Yeah,
The
yeah. Like,
universe, it definitely dishes out to more to some people than others. Like it's maybe depressing to emphasize that, but maybe it isn't, because it's something you have to accept. It's part of reality. It's part of life, and we can only make everything more fair for everyone if we recognize the game was rigged in the first place, right? If you deny that, if you like want to stay willfully ignorant about that fact, then you can never don't think we can ever create like a better living conditions for everyone. If we
Yeah,
assume
like
as
you gotta meet
if we assume
reality.
that everybody deserves what they're getting, right? That's not true.
Yeah, you gotta meet reality like on its terms, like head on, like because that's just what it is
Mhm.
and how it is. Like, and so
Yeah.
it sucks that it be that way, but sometimes it do.
Yeah, I mean, objectively speaking, reality kind of sucks.
Yeah,
I am a, by
it
the
could
way,
be cooler if we could fly, maybe.
I'm saying this as somebody who is generally optimistic, but like you have to recognize it for what it is if you want to be if you want to have optimism, you know.
And I remember back when, my brother had died and stuff, I was talking to one of my friends and they were like, oh, well, they just said something really naive. Or and I was like, I cannot wait until the world just like chews you up and spits you out. Because they had said something like that they were glad that they had never, dealt with like they're white, okay, just to
Mhm.
start off, but they had never really dealt with like any racial issues or stuff like that. And I was like, I wonder why in this the majority of the population being white, like especially here in our town, and you're gonna say that
Hmm.
there's a reason why no one has like bullied you for being white. It's just
I,
wild. Some people like now, of course, she's grown, she's experienced a little bit more of life, which I knew would happen. It just happened to me a little sooner.
mhm.
So I'm a little nihilistic, I am sometimes, but I mean, if I expect the worst when the worst happens, it's not that bad.
That's a way to look at it. Yeah, I think I'm the same in some way, even though I haven't really remotely experienced the things that you did. But I do think, I do think if anything, it's a testament to your character that at some moments in your story, the key decisions that you made, you stuck up for yourself, even at moments that most people wouldn't have, I guess.
Yeah,
So
like
that's a
it's
testament
really
to you.
hard for like, someone to do that at all, to like stand up when, you feel like you're on your own.
I wonder where you got that from.
Like I kind of like I want to say that I kind of raised myself to a degree. And me being raised by, like I said earlier, the older generation stuff, I matured a lot faster
Mhm.
and like a lot differently
That makes
than
sense.
everyone else around me did, basically. Like because my cousin wasn't raised, by the same people. She was raised by her mom, by my aunt, so and by her dad. So like it's a lot different.
Yeah, I understand.
Like
Wo-
because my parents would be working or something, so I would have to, cook and stuff at the house for myself.
Mhm. I think that because of that, whenever life kind of throws you away, I guess. Maybe that's a crude way to say it. I don't know. In a certain sense, I feel like whatever happens, you at least you would make the decision to choose for yourself. Maybe that's a consolation in a certain level. To me, it feels like a kind of it is.
Yeah. It took me a while to realize that like in life like you shouldn't want to like live to cater to other people. Like you should like focus on your happiness
Yeah.
while
You should send
also,
for YouTubers. Yeah.
yeah,
No.
like it, it's you first, and you have to realize that. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it took me a while. I thought I was like an emotional support human, and that's literally what I would call myself. And I was there at everyone's beck and call because I didn't want anyone to feel like what I had felt like or what I felt like my brother had felt like when he
Hmm.
did that. Like I was determined like after I got over my, rage,
Mhm.
I was like just at everyone's beck and call on hand and foot doing whatever. Like, but that put me in some shitty situations as well because I was just like, you know, I was stretching myself too far.
Yeah,
Like
I
what I
understand.
wanted did not even matter.
Mhm.
But sometimes you gotta be a brat, I guess.
No, I think what you're saying make a lot of sense. For me, it's hard to imagine that, to get to that point, but maybe that's why I want to talk about it as well. That's just a perspective that a lot of people will just, I guess, never have on their plate. So
Yeah.
yeah, I see that we have 10 minutes left. By the way, is there anything you would like to talk about or ask? We've talked a
Um,
lot, and first of all, I want to say I appreciate you sharing everything. I think that you're an excellent storyteller, really.
thank you.
And I'm blown away by how open you are about everything. I've said this multiple times, maybe because I'm a little bit shocked, but I think in a way, you have more balls than me for sure. I'm just a sheltered little YouTube bitch white boy, right? Right.
Oh no.
I mean, it's true. It's true. It's true. It's true.
But at least you have like the mind to want to like hear about other people's experiences and not just put them like on the back burner.
I think I do.
Like a lot of people would just be fine, just ignoring like the facts of life, I guess you could say, or whatever.
For
But
me, for me, one thing that helped is because for my work, because I study insects, and for my work, I have to travel a lot. So I worked in countries like Laos, like Cambodia, like Brazil. I've been in the Dominican Republic, all nice countries in their own respect. I enjoyed my time in each one of them. But in these places, it's much more on the surface how much inequality there is. And for me, that was my eye opener. Because I'll be honest, when I was young, like in my early 20s, I guess in some level, I think I was kind of ignorant to that too. My
mm,
my attitude was also more like, the universe is a meritocratic thing. And if you are, if you are worth nice things, then the universe will reward you with nice things. And if you are not deserving of that, then the universe will give you like bad conditions. And that was
mhm.
a childish worldview, but in some level, it is a worldview I grow up with.
Yeah.
And I mean, but it was. I mean, this is a long time ago, right? This is like
Hmm.
we're talking 10 years ago at least, maybe when I was close to a
Hmm.
teenager, going into an adult. But it's nice sometimes to. Well, I wouldn't say it's nice to see it, but it's important to see it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Important, definitely.
thing is, inequality is everywhere, but in some places on Earth, it's definitely more visible. If you just walk on the street, you can see it, and that I think, in some level, that helped me. Because
Yeah.
I know I went to Cambodia. I met people who make like $1 a day doing like work that is 10 times more heavier than the work that I do, and kind of
I
stuff
wish
like
I
that.
could travel. Ugh.
Well, yeah, it
That'd
makes
be
you
so
it
nice.
make it makes you think.
It
It made me
does.
think. And
My
I
boyfriend's
I, rem-
family.
I remember meeting very relatable people who they also wanted to study butterflies and moths, right? And they asked me how I did it. They said, "Well, you have
Mhm.
to." I said, "Why don't you just you know check the internet, go to a library, and you can learn?" And they said, "Well, how? I can't afford books." I was like, "Damn, that's."
Here, like textbooks and stuff. Oh, it's outrageous. Student loan. That's why I didn't go to college, too, honestly. Because, like, I don't need a piece of paper to prove that I can take pictures, for one.
Hmm. Well, I
And,
mean,
like,
the thing is, my hobbies, for me personally, it's very important that I can pursue them. And I never realized if I was born on the other side of the world, like I wouldn't even be able to afford the education to learn about them. Something as simple as the internet or books, or a smartphone you can use to look it up.
yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to do all the stuff that I do now. Part of that is, I mean, part of that is also because I was born in the right family who supports my silly. Going off on a contingent here about myself, but I guess it ties into what we said. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. So we have 5 minutes left, by the way. 5 minutes. Let's go.
Alrighty. We made like good work here.
Yeah.
Lots of content.
I mean, we could keep going, but I think we kind of covered most of your life, right?
Yeah.
Anything you still want to share? 5 minutes?
Uh I don't think so. Like nothing really pops up. Like I think I hit all the key points.
You can
If we
ask me
wanted to go
something
in,
if you want.
oh no, my brain went completely like blank. I know that I wanted to go to Brazil though. I know I want to go there just because I've seen some of the ruins and stuff. And
Ruins?
like, yeah, I think like I think that's what it was. I don't know. I saw them in like this video and it was just this girl like walking through them and it just looked really beautiful, like really green and vibrant. And you could just hear like the birds and it was just great. Like, because I like going out for photography like early in the mornings or like because when the dew is still on the ground and stuff like that. And everything just looks more vibrant to me for some reason.
Oh,
And
I've seen massive forests there, but I haven't seen any ruins yet. But
it like it just might be the word I'm using for it because there was like remnants of like stone like building looking things like columns or something. But it looked really nice. It looked aesthetic to me.
it is. It is. Okay, 3 minutes. What do you say? Should we end it or?
um yeah, I think so. I think that's a good
Okay.
first
But before we end it,
episode.
I want to say thank you, I guess, for talking to me. I appreciate it. We
Thank
spent
you for listening.
we spent a lot of more time talking than I expected, to be honest. And in a certain way, you kind of feel like someone I could talk to for hours, to be honest. Yeah, you have,
Good. Thank you.
yeah, really, really. So you have
I
that.
aim to be like as open as because when you're open, other people like will feel that, you know?
Yeah. It didn't feel like a podcast. It felt like we were just sitting in a bar or something, you know?
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seraphine, for coming to the podcast and being in the first episode. And I wish you well.
All right. I wish you well as
Yes,
well.
I wish you more well. Okay, let's not do this. Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Bye. Later.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are slowly arriving towards the end, but not before I have several things to tell you. First of all, I wanted to say this is the first episode of a brand new podcast that I wanted to do. My name is Bart Coppens, and I'm already somewhat well known on the internet for being a YouTuber that films wildlife, in particular insects and nature. In particular, butterflies and moths are something that I am really obsessed with, and I've made over 1,000 butterfly and moth videos on YouTube. Despite that fact, I wanted to try something new, something humanizing, something more personal. And this podcast in which we share the life stories of people who have had interesting, strange, or unusual experiences in their life is my attempt at making something like that. Now, this podcast, I call it the Rhodopneuma podcast. What does that mean? Well, it has several meanings. The first meaning is a very shallow one. It is derived from Actias rhodopneuma, which is my favorite species of moon moth. It is a moon moth from Asia that has beautiful pink colored wings. But I also really like the meaning of the scientific name of this moth species. Rhodopneuma has a special meaning. It comes from rhodon, which means rose or rose-colored, and pneumos, which means breath or spirit or wind. Rhodopneuma roughly translated, it means rose-colored spirit. Now, personally, I think that's a very poetic name. Not only is it the name of one of my favorite insects, rose-colored spirit, it kind of applies to this podcast as well. Just like wearing rose-colored glasses, which implies optimism, I think humans have a rose-colored spirit. Because despite all the hardships we face every day and some of our difficult life stories, we tend to gravitate towards optimism. Now, I know that doesn't apply to everyone. I know not everyone is able to afford the privilege of optimism at all times. But collectively as a species, I think we have a rose-colored spirit. Rhodopneuma. That is my name for the podcast. My favorite moth, but also a very poetic name. Last but not least, it is totally original. You guys have no idea how popular podcasts are nowadays. Almost every name I tried to come up with was taken. Almost everything. Everyone and their mother and their sister and their cat and their dog nowadays has a podcast, including me. But that does mean that coming up with an original name is very challenging. And it turns out this name was not taken. So that's a win-win. I think it's a beautiful name. It's a reference to some of the things I do with insects, which are unrelated to this podcast. But it kind of ties into the things I like. But it also ties into this optimistic sentiment of our our rose-colored, which is not the same as pink, I guess, spirit. Thanks for listening. Last but not least, this is a brand new podcast. That means that right now, we don't have any viewers. We don't have any subscribers. Zero. If you are listening to this right now, you are one of the first people who is listening to my podcast. And in order to be successful, the first thing we need is viewers. We need people to listen to this. We need people to share it. If you like this episode, consider sharing it with your friends. Consider sharing it with your family. Copy the link. Play it at work. Download it. Play it in your car when you're driving. Listen to it with headphones while you're in the train. The chill thing about podcasts is not very visual. You can kind of do your own thing. You can study and play it in the background and relax listening to the audio. But above all, the first thing that we read right now is viewers and listeners. If you like this podcast, please consider sharing it with your friends, your family, your relatives, or anyone who is interested in this podcast and who could think that some of the experiences and things that happened during our conversation may be relatable. I would like to get viewers. And only then, if there is animosity, only if there is interest in the podcast, we can upgrade the quality. For example, we are using the free version of Zoom, which is annoying, which means every 40 minutes there is an interruption because the free version only allows 40-minute calls. This is kind of annoying, but it's possible to work around it by starting new calls indefinitely. It's not big of a problem, but I would consider paying for the business version if there was interest in this show. But it's hard to know that beforehand, isn't it? I kind of have to test the waters, I have to read the room, see how many people are sitting at home listening to this, thinking it is nice, maybe it's funny, maybe it's inspirational, who knows? I have to do a little bit of an experiment. And you are part of that experiment, dear listener, because you can help me make it or break it. First few episodes are going to be the most important. I'm going to see how much people share it, how much people listen to it, how much people are interested in these stories. And based on that, I will decide to make more episodes. Last but not least, I want to end it with a compliment to Seraphine. This is my first podcast. I am very inexperienced. I don't really know how to interview people. I have little life experiences. I'm kind of vanilla. I haven't went through many hardships in my life, but I am interested in hearing people's stories. Seraphine, if you're listening, you are probably the best guest I could ever have had on a first episode. You are funny, you are charismatic, you are very open about your experience, and overall, I think it was very inspirational. And I immediately feel very energized to keep going. I feel very energized now to start interviewing more people because this experience was much more positive than I thought it would. I managed to connect to someone in the United States who faced a lot of issues in their life that are completely alien to me, including, well, you've heard it, you've listened to the episode, I don't have to repeat it. But some of these things, I can't wrap my head around it. And I think that's part of what makes it fun, my ignorance. Last but not least, I don't aspire to be an online therapist. I don't have all the answers to life. I am not here to listen to people's problems and to tell them about their problems. I am not here to tell people how to fix their life. I am not here to give people advice. I am not here to be like Dr. Phil. I don't have all the answers to life, and I am not in a position to give advice to others. For sure. See me more as an equal. I am an interested person who would like to have a conversation with you. Someone who hasn't been through some of these experiences but is curious about them. Someone who isn't a professional. Someone who may end up accidentally saying inappropriate things because he is ignorant about these things. It could happen. I am ignorant. That is just how it is. But I think that's what makes it fun. Because it is not just me being a condescending influencer, giving advice to people who have problems, like I'm some kind of Dr. Phil, like I'm some kind of life guru. No, it's different. I am also learning from the people that I'm interviewing myself. As someone who had a sheltered life with little issues, although I do have issues, but we'll bring that up in a later episode. But little issues, definitely more insignificant than some of the people I've interviewed. And therefore, I feel like talking to them isn't just me educating them, it is them educating me. Thank you guys for listening. This was the first episode of the Rhodopneuma podcast. I hope to see you again. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any feedback, please leave a comment, email me, find me on Facebook, find me on YouTube. My name is Bart Coppens. You know where to find me. And if you think that you are a person who has had unusual, strange, weird life experiences that are worth talking about, this can be something very dark. It can be even as dark as abuse or trauma, but it doesn't have to be. It can be lighthearted. It can be something like, I won the lottery. As long as it's unusual, weird, and worth talking about, then you could be welcome on my podcast. I've had a lot of requests already, and I cannot interview everyone, sorry, but I will try my best. You will also have to be a consenting adult. This is important, a consenting adult to be on my podcast. That was it. I have a lot of stuff to think about. Thank you, Seraphine. You were an excellent guest. See you next episode.